It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Follies, Venus in Fur, Other Desert Cities, and Relatively Speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Two on the Aisle. Good evening. I'm Charles Gross. Welcome to Two on the Aisle. With me, as always, is Drama Desk Vice President Leslie Hoban Blake. How are you, Leslie?
I'm good tonight, Charlie. Thank you. Now, this is a play that we've already talked about. Yes. We talked about this and we trashed it.
We did.
And in favor of a much smaller play off Broadway, as I recall. Other Desert Cities by John Robin Bates, directed by the great Joe Mantello. New cast
who, as far as we were concerned, had much better luck acting that season.
Yes, acting that season in the Normal Heart than he had with this play. And of course, Robbie and Joe had been very close and have a very special relationship as actor, as writer-director. So, you know, all of this was going on. And I had a problem with so many things this last time. What it is, very briefly, is in Los Angeles, in an outskirt of Los Angeles, a desert city outside of Los Angeles, unspecified, a family lives. They are Republican. They look like, well, she looks like she's had her face done recently. He looks very pompous and wears a blue jacket.
Looks like he could have been in like the High Camera TV show.
Something like that, yes. Isn't that funny?
Well, actually, he plays a former actor who went into a politician. How often do you see that in California?
Yeah, right. Anyway,
yes.
And then in the house are her grown daughter, who's had all sorts of problems, dependency problems of one kind or another. Her grown son, who's playing tennis and running around. Her sister,
and produces a TV court show.
A TV court show, right. And her sister, who's a recovering alcoholic. Is that everybody in the family? Do we
everyone who's still alive. Yes.
Okay. And at one point, and you don't know exactly where it's going, but you do learn very quickly that they are former actor writer. Couple who become these really rock-bound Republicans at the time of Nancy and Ron Reagan.
They're kind of like BBFs with Ron and Nancy.
Exactly, and they also.
And for those of you born after a certain time, that's Nancy Reagan, by the way.
Yes. And the other part of this also is that one of the things they talk about is how important it is to them to keep up these appearances, even though she was a Jewish girl from Texas. Right. You wouldn't know it to hear her, you wouldn't know it to look at her. But her sister still has a New York kind of cadence to her speech pattern and has not succumbed to that whole thing. And her sister has the kind of zinger thing that a lot of alcoholics have, where she's always throwing lines in and doing one-liners and whatnot with her sister. And so there's that kind of thing going on. And all of a sudden, in the middle of all of this, the young daughter, who is now in recovery, pulls out a manuscript and says, I've written a story, and it's about us, and it's about all of us. And the all of us is, at one point, the mother says, I have 2 children, and the daughter says, no, you have 3 children. And it seems that there is a son who is no longer living, who was a Vietnam War protester who got involved in some kind of something, and there was a bombing, and he committed suicide. And they just don't talk about him as if he doesn't exist.
Right, and a lot of stuff comes out, and there's an 11th hour revelation. Thank you. Revelation that really doesn't shock you all that much. You know, it's like, not all that surprised.
You like the poochie I'm wearing?
Do you mean, do I like the quote-unquote poochie you're wearing?
Please don't start with me. There was a sale. I had to fight off 3 old vultures for this poochie.
That poochie was made in a basement in Rangoon, please. All these phony designer dresses and tacky Hong Kong knockoffs he scrounged for at Loman's. You're never fooling anybody, really.
This poochie is quite real.
Darling, I know when I'm being played. I know what's real and what isn't.
They don't have fake at Loman's.
No, they have originals for $14.95. I'm still a Texas girl, Silda, and so are you.
Honey, newsflash. You're not a Texan, you're a Jew. We're Jewish girls who lost their accent along the way, but for you that wasn't enough. You had to become a goy, too. Talk about the real thing. Talk about faking it. Honey, this poochie's a lot more real than your Pat Buckley shtick.
It's not a novel.
Huh?
I know that I said it was, and it started off as one, but after a few chapters, there was no hiding what it was, no fighting it. It's a memoir.
A memoir? Of?
Us. It's the story of everything that happened to us. So I wanted to prepare you for that.
Ah, I see. You want us to brace ourselves, which is why you were so hesitant to tell us earlier.
Well, it's not entirely unexpected. May I ask what's in it?
Actually, probably the more piquant question is, what's not?
I just want to take a comment on Judith Light.
Well, let's just say that Judith, these were the two cast changes, and this is very, very important.
Oh, yes.
Off Broadway, at Lincoln Center, the drunken sister was played by Linda Lavin, who, you know, is a very, very strong personality, and the daughter was played by Jane. I want to say Jane Addamson. I think that's wrong. I can't remember. Was not played by who is playing her now. The person playing her now is Rachel Griffiths, whom you may know from some television series like Brothers and Sisters. And Judith Light, the great Judith Light, has taken over from the great Linda Lavin and done something miraculous. She has made this, what I thought was a stereotypical cartoon character, into a living, breathing human being.
What I find very interesting is that she comes out in a brunette wig, at least I think it's a wig, and I swear she looks just like Linda Lavin ever so briefly.
Oh, really?
But what I loved so much more about her performance was, yes, it was less caricaturish, but more to the point, Linda Lavin was just so out in left field with her accent that I keep thinking, are these two women really sisters?
Well,
Judith Light, yes, different enough, but still you do believe these two women are related.
I think
she meshed much better with Stockard Channing.
I think when we talked about it,
as the wife.
I think when we talked about it the first time, that was the first thing I said was these women could not be. I don't care how much the other one was putting it on.
And I agreed with you.
And Rachel Griffith has brought a gravitas to this girl. Her troubled.
By the way, why can't Jewish girls be blonde?
I don't know. The mother was blonde.
They could have had Judith Light. Why did Judith Light have to wear a brown wig?
But Stockard Channing was blonde. The whole idea was one of the things you do is change your appearance and you become a menopausal blonde in her case for the age thing. And Stacy Keach is very interesting because he's this big, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and he's not really. That's his cover for what's really going on inside and how broken up he is over what happened with his son also.
Right.
I liked it much more. I still didn't love it, but I liked it much more this time.
Yes.
And also, we saw it, and it was in the round, and not in the round, in three-quarter thrust. But I had a quibble about the direction. I found it static. I found that everybody stayed in his or her little pattern, and we were.
And you like it better now?
I like the staging better now, and it is.
I did like it much better this time. It's still tighter. I was still a better cast,
but it's
still not overwhelmed with it. Three on, and that's on a good night.
Well, it's how much dysfunction do you want and how much can you take, So I'd say 3.
Okay.
And that's being kind.